I guess for me, I mean, I really associate that playing with Jimi Hendrix, but and that's where I learned it from. When I was a little kid and I heard Little Wing, I remember going to some like in Florida at the summer. I went to some Indian get-together picnic. They had like an Indian band. It was on an Indian reservation, and the band there played Little Wing, and I remember I thought about it a lot, and I decided that nobody could possibly know how to play Little Wing. Like I felt like that it's in the category of impossible to play. And I saw this guy play it, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. Like this guitar player up there was playing it, and I really felt like he was doing the impossible. So that kind of playing, it took me a while because it exists on so many levels. You've got the chord being played, and then you've got a sort of a lead part going on top of it, and then you also get on top of the lead part these extra strings that are being barred that are on the high strings. It ends up sounding, to the ear of somebody who doesn't know how to play guitar, or somebody who's at a beginning stage, it really sounds like it's like 3 guitars at once. And that was why Little Wing really had me confused, because I thought, how could that be 1 guitar? It sounds like 3 guitars, But I guess that where Jimmy was getting that style from was Curtis Mayfield. It was from what I understand, the originator of that style of rhythm guitar playing. And so, his work in the Impressions and all his great solo records and everything, it was real innovative stuff, and I know it was a big influence on Jimi Hendrix's playing. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think using my thumb definitely has a lot to do with the way it sounds when I do it, because it gives my fingers a lot more freedom. For me, like, I could never play this chord that way. It would be too limiting for me. There's only so much you can do from there, and when your thumb's taking care of that, you have a lot of freedom here, and so that. For me, that's a big part of playing in that style, like especially on Danny California, where that thumb is reaching those notes, it's like it just couldn't be done if you tried to do it this way, And so that's a big part of it. But as far as hitting it, I guess it just comes from years of doing it. It's not something that I've ever really thought about that much. I know the ability to block the strings that you don't want to be using with this hand rather than not picking them. I tend to pick all the strings, and if I don't want a certain note to ring through, I'll lift my finger up on it without lifting up all the way. And that's just something that it's second nature to me now, but I guess to somebody who's in their first couple of years of playing, it's really a good thing to start thinking about is getting in the habit of picking all the strings. That way you can get really the real rhythmic kind of attack, and then with this hand, if you want to play the note that you would normally be just picking by itself, you basically block every other string from making a sound if you just want one string to sound through, and you just get in the habit of muting the strings that you don't want to hear rather than not playing them. That's like just barely pressing down on the strings, to get the real percussive, funky sound. That was the original idea with the James Brown stuff, I guess, was to make the guitar more like a percussion instrument rather than like a guitar. So it's basically just not holding, just barely pressing down, kind of making it so it just makes more of a percussive noise, so you just don't press down all the way. For me, that kind of playing has everything to do with just making sure that your right hand can just be really precise with stuff like that and just be really deep in the groove. it's kind of like the idea of when you subtract all that space that can go in between two things, like if you were to just play it like this, as opposed, it just creates this dimension to it, because then you've got a high thing and a low thing, and it's basically like two things rather than just playing a chord, which makes it just like one thing. So it was a good way to play acoustic guitar and to be able to kind of improvise with myself, because I could kind of send my head in two directions at once, you know? Like an example of like improvising with that kind of thing, what you can get into, like, you know, so you can just sit there and have fun with yourself, kind of be the bass player and the guitar player at once, you know. Well, you know, you can't forget that it's all about playing music. It's not about what you can show people that you can do with a piece of wood in your hands that had strings on it. Like the idea is to make sounds that are good, and in music, that's really so much about the relationships between the different things. So like for me, like if I'm sitting at home studying a particular guitar solo, it's not enough for me to just learn the solo. I have to make sure I understand the relationship between the notes that the lead player is playing and the chords that are being played behind it, or the bass line that's being played behind it. And I think that the fact that I take that approach to it comes out a lot in my soloing, because I'm often really absorbed in what the bass and the drums are doing, and I'm really thinking about trying to create dimension in relationship to that. You know, I'm not thinking in terms of just, oh good, they're giving me a blank canvas, now I can go crazy over it. Like it's more like constant interaction with the other people playing, and you know, it's and I guess on this album, like, it was really important to me to do a lot of speeding up and slowing down. And a lot of people play sort of straight up and down, and there's like an invisible, like if a song's tempo is like this, there's like a 16th note grid that's invisible that, and usually, like, in general, people play with a strict adherence to that, even if they're people who don't know anything about music. Sometimes, especially if they're people who don't know anything about the technical side of music, they stick to that thing like they're in jail, you know? They don't go outside of it. They don't play slower than that. They don't play faster than that. They don't speed up and slow down. They play a series of notes, all of which more or less fall into that, onto one of those 16th notes. They could be playing slow, but it's dun, 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 you know. So yeah, so the idea for me, like with a lot of the playing that I did on this album, was to really go outside of that and to not pay any attention to that at all. And even when I am playing things that are on time, as far as being 16th notes, I'll try to lay back on them or try to push forward on them. And if I'm doubling a guitar, I don't try to double it exactly. I like to have, like on that thing on Danny California where it's going. If you listen, the one on the right is playing, I think it's, one of them's playing right on time, and the other one is playing a laid-back version of it, and they create a cool stereo effect like that. I just didn't want to be straight in any way, so for me, like my playing, Chad and Flea did a lot of like experimentation with me in the studio, just sort of playing in a style where the guitar is more talking over the music, and it's finding its own groove in the music, other than what the bass and the drums are laying down, you know. Like making sure you're just stretching time out and making time go faster, making time go slower, just playing games with it all the time and just trying to like twist everything around and just try to bend the fabric of reality, because it's a lot, it's a lot easier to do with a guitar for me than it is with talking to somebody or